Hey everyone, I'm Brandon Gator with Bass and Tackle, and today we're going to do the second video on our beginner series. In the first video, I explained to you what first rod you want to buy, which is a 7-ish foot medium action or medium power spinning setup. And on this video, I'm going to explain to you all what kind of line you want to put on your rod and reel. So there's basically 3 different types of line. There is monofilament, which is like the old school basic fishing line that everybody basically fishes with, besides, I guess, more extreme bass fishermen. But monofilament, it's just the old school line that's been around forever. There is fluorocarbon. It came out in probably the early 2000s, I guess, became more mainstream. That's when I started trying it. So fluorocarbon is the second one. Then there's braided line, and a lot of big fish people like catfishermen and stuff like that, they use this line, but it's also good for bass fishing. But out of all three of these lines, I would recommend monofilament. It's the tried and true, simple line that's been around forever. It's the most forgiving, best beginner line, and I will go through all these lines and tell you the difference in all of them. So with monofilament, it is, I think it's a nylon based line. Not sure on that, but pretty sure that's what it is. And I guess the pros of it is it's pretty cheap. It handles pretty well on the rod and reel. Like, it doesn't backlash your bird's nest and stuff as much. It floats. That's not necessarily a pro or a con, but that's just the nature of it. It floats. It's got some stretch to it, so it's kind of more spongy. I would consider it like a soft line. It's, I guess, like a suspension on a car would be a soft suspension. It's got some flex and bounce to it, and you set the hook, it's got some give to it. But in return, since it is soft and has some give to it, it's pretty strong and takes up some of the abuse that you're going to put to it. Like, it doesn't cut through rocks and stuff. Like on rocks and stuff, it doesn't cut and break as easy as like a fluorocarbon would, or rubbing over sticks or stuff like that. It's kind of forgiving, I guess. It holds up pretty good. But setting the hook, you're going to have to put more force on it because it has some stretch. Working your baits and stuff, you're going to not have as much feel and everything to it because it's got some squish there to it. It's got some give to it. So it's not a firm line like some of these other ones are. So that's kind of the cons to it, I guess. That's really about it. This is a Bass Pro Shop Excel line. It's made in China. There's made American ones too, but made in Japan, all over the country, I guess. There's different lines made that make this. It's the most common line you're going to find at any store, Walmart, whatever. Second, there is fluorocarbon. This is 100% fluorocarbon, Seaguar Red Label. As far as I know, the best fluorocarbon is made in Japan only. I don't know if there's any American makers doing it as well as Japan or not, but most of your good fluorocarbon is made in Japan. Something I didn't say about mono is you can get it in all different kinds of colors. Like, that was green. Fluorocarbon is mainly going to all be just clear. And the monofilament, even with green or clear or whatever color, you're still going to be able to see it underwater some. Just how the light refracts off of it. With fluorocarbon, it is pretty much invisible underwater. However the light refracts onto it, it kind of makes it disappear, and it's kind of see-through underwater. So that's one of the biggest pros about fluorocarbon. Fluorocarbon has some stretch still, but not as much as monofilament. So it's a stiffer line. It's more of a brittle line. So if you're fishing around rocks and heavy cover and stuff, it may get a nick on it and make it more susceptible to break right there. So they do make more abrasion resistant fluorocarbon. Different models are like that, so that can kind of help in that situation. But for the most part, fluorocarbon is going to be more brittle and not as strong as like monofilament. Fluorocarbon sinks. So you can't really use it to top water. I know some people do, but you really want I like a floating line for top water. Some people throw buzz bait and stuff on fluorocarbon. I don't like it as much, but it's kind of personal preference. A lot of your top water baits, if you try to work it on fluorocarbon, it won't work right. The bait, instead of riding nose high or something and walking, it will sit down and want to dive. So I know that's a little more advanced, but still, that's kind of the downfall of fluorocarbon somewhat. It's not as beginner friendly. You're more likely to get bird's nest or backlashes with it. That's probably the major downfall of this. There's a lot of people who won't use it because of that, especially on a spinning reel. I fished years on straight fluorocarbon with a spinning reel, where nowadays most people are throwing braid, which is our next line. They're going braid with fluorocarbon leader. That's way more advanced than you need to learn. So I'll explain braid next, then go back to fluorocarbon and show you how to put it on the rod and reel. So braided line is basically a rope. It's 5, 7, 9, however many strands of like rope material. I don't know what it's actually made out of, but it's all threaded together, all kind of threaded together into a rope pretty much. So this is your strongest line. There's basically zero stretch to it, and you're going to have probably the most feel with this, even over the fluorocarbon. Fluorocarbon you can feel pretty good with it, but this is going to be even better. It's a direct connection to you and your bait. So you can get away with a wimpier, kind of flimsy, cheaper rod if you use braid, because it can kind of make up for some of the lack of quality rod sensitivity wise. It does float like monofilament. You can get in different colors, like this is fluorescent green or high vis yellow. Probably one of the best things about braid is the strength of it. It doesn't rot or go bad over time, and a big pound test, like a higher test braid, is the same size as a monofilament or fluorocarbon. Like this is 15-pound test, but it's the size of 4-pound diameter monofilament. So that's one of the best things about braid is you can get 65-pound test. It's the size of like 15 or 20-pound monofilament. So that's one of the best things about braid. It can be fairly cheap, but you can get expensive stuff too. On price wise, I would say monofilament, then braid, then fluorocarbon is your most expensive. So back to the monofilament. The reason I think it's the best beginner line is it's the most forgiving, it's the cheapest, and it's honestly a good all-around line to do about everything with. And that's what you need in a beginner setup. So with this rod and reel, your 7-foot or so medium power spinning reel, I would recommend 6 or 8-pound test. I prefer 8 as my go-to line for these reels. You can go down to 4 and go up to 10. I don't really go less or more than that. You can, but for me, 8 pounds is like the best pretty much. Unless you're in a situation where you need to go less or more. So 8 pounds is a good all-around size. And next I'll show you how to put it on your reel the right way. There's a lot of people who does it the wrong way. You can buy monofilament in a big spool like this, or probably the most common way is these little small filler spools. Usually one of these spools will do 1 or 2 reel changes. So you're going to take, this is not brand new line. I've had this line for a while. So you're going to take your line, get it off the spool here. I've got it coming off. You're going to lay it flat on the ground, label up. And what that does is it's cooling off of this certain way. Like you can see how it bends this certain way, kind of like a garden hose or something like that. And if you ever rode up a garden hose, you have to go with the bend kind of. You don't want to put it on your reel going the opposite of the way it's already bending. So if you put this down on the ground face up and start reeling, this line will go back on your spool the same way it's bent from the factory. If you do it like this, it may go backwards. And most people, when they spool their reel up, they hold it like this. And for bait caster, that's what you want to do, but for a spinning reel, you do not. That can get the line going on, not with the spin. So we're gonna lay our spool down here, label up, flat on the ground, find the end of our line. There's the end of our line. And what I like to do is run it through the rod, starting at the tip. You can do it with the reel off the rod, but to me it's easiest doing it on the rod and just starting at the tip of it, just going all the way down like it should be. Like you're totally set up once you're done, pretty much. Some people are scared of lining their own rod and reel. They think they're going to mess up or do something wrong, and it's really not that difficult. It's, I guess, one of the first things I learned to do as a kid growing up fishing. All right, we got it through all the guides, and on our spinning reel, what we're going to do is open the bell. I'm just taking the line in my hand, looping it around the spool, one overhead knot, tighten it down, second overhead knot, if there's any slack or anything, just tighten it up to where there's no slack. And you can see that there's my knot in my spool. There's a tag in here. I prefer to snip this off with scissors. That way you have less of a chance of scratching your spool or damaging it in any way. Like if you have a knife, you may cut it, and then when it cuts, hit the edge of it or something, and that could actually cause a nick in your line later. And you don't have to worry about getting the tag in super duper next to the knot. As long as you're like that, it's good. Now you can close your spool. Make sure you got your drag tightened a little bit so it spins, it pulls in line. And I'm gonna step back here some. Hold my rod tip right above the line. Start reeling. What I do is I hold my line right here in my fingers, right above the front of the reel. Just reel like this, and that's putting the line right on the spool the right way it came off of that spool. It's still got the factory kink into turning the right way on my spool. Also, if you want to help make your line more subtle and go on better and cast better, you can get line conditioner. This is Ardent Line Butter. It's a good line tensioner or conditioner. Some of these are not made to work with fluorocarbon. This one is. So I think Real Magic is probably the most common brand, and you can't use fluorocarbon with it. So Ardent Real Butter, and there's a bunch of other ones too. There's a couple sprays or so on here while you're doing it. Do one halfway, and I usually do one at the very end. You can go as slow or fast as you want to do this. Just however you feel comfortable. And one of the big things I see people do that's very bad is put too much line on their reel. I'll show y'all what I mean by that. There's actually a spot on these spinning reels that's kind of the stopping point for line. If you go over that point, you're going to have your line trying to come off the reel too much. Alright, we're getting pretty much to the stopping point. So, on this reel, you can see this little black like edge lip. That line right there where it turns black to gold is where you want to stop. You don't want to go past the black circle. If you go past it, it's going to be on this gold part and it's going to be wanting to kind of just spoof off the reel here. So we can stop there or maybe add a little bit more. Just get to the edge of that black part. Just don't go past it. All right, that looks pretty good. We'll spray a couple final sprays of this reel butter on here. Call it good. It can be soaking in the spool and it will kind of reshape this line onto the spool to get the kink of the line back onto this spool. So you can see the black part, the black to gold part, it's right there at the edge of it. That's maximized in your spool. That's as much line as you ever want to put on that reel. So, next, we can take our spool, and if you have a big spool like this, you can get a piece of tape. Usually there's a notch on here. Put your line on that notch, tape it. So, there's your line in that notch right there, taped. It's not going anywhere. It doesn't make a big mess while you're storing it. Cut it off. There's you a nice spool of line. You can store wherever you want to. And you got your line ready to go. You can actually tie a bait on right now. We're just going to tie it off to the guide here because you don't know anything about baits yet. So that's going to be probably the next video. I will talk about some beginner baits for this setup. Probably pick a few items that you can get started with, have a good chance of catching fish with, and that will work perfect with this new setup. That way you can get a hang of using those baits, get the hang of catching some fish, getting the hang of your new rod and reel. We'll probably do the bait setup next. And then after that, I may do maybe a knot video next, or do that part of the baits, because you're gonna have to learn how to tie on your baits. The knot video will be super simple, so. There you go. That is your brand new rod and reel, all lined up, ready to go to the lake after you learn about some baits and what to tie on. So check back next time for the next video on what baits you need to tie on your new rod and reel. That way you can go to the lake and have some hopefully good success. That way you can start learning how to bass fish. All it takes is asking questions and learning knowledge, learning new skills. If you got any questions about any of these lines or this setup, write down in the comments below. I'll do my best to help y'all out. And I plan to keep doing more of these beginner videos and a lot more videos to come. So thanks for watching, and remember, Jesus loves you. Bye.